During my late teen years, I always heard how Sonic Adventure 2 was the peak of the 3D era. It was the introduction of Shadow the Hedgehog, the narrative had become a bit more ambitious and cohesive, and it even expanded the lore so much that it had an entire story arc dedicated to it in the Sonic X anime that had early teenage me on the edge of my seat. So imagine my surprise when I finally sit down to play and discover the game really is an improvement over Sonic Adventure 1. And while the story has become slightly more ambitious, a number of things have aged in rather amusing ways. At least if you consider the fanbase's insistence that these two games should be a template to how Sonic media should be written. But I'm getting ahead of myself here and I'm not trying to trash talk. So let's go ahead and cover the basics. In this new adventure, Sonic and his friends are facing an extra layer of danger on top of Dr. Eggman's usual evil schemes. They have to fight the government. The evil doctor discovered and released Shadow the Hedgehog from a military base and caused total destruction. So of course, Sonic and his friends end up taking the blame for it. So now, they have to clear their names and stop Dr. Eggman from unleashing a deadly laser into the world, and figure out what the deal is with Shadow. And that's about as best as I can summarize it. This is one of those Sonic plots that are carved into the fanbase's consciousness. The rivalry of Sonic and Shadow being the most iconic across the entire franchise, but more on that in a moment. Right off the bat, the game ditches the non-linear characters chapters of the previous entry and instead focuses on two main stories, Hero and Dark. On the Hero side, you get to play as Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, while on the Dark side, you get to play as Shadow, Dr. Eggman, and Rouge. Now, while it's true this means you're still playing as multiple characters, this time around there is a lot more cohesion. All the events in both stories are shown in sequential order, more directly interconnected with each other, which also means you're getting a turn at playing through 3 different level types: speed levels, mecha levels, and treasure hunts. The speed levels speak for themselves. It's the usual spectacle-driven, high-octane action you enjoy as either Sonic or Shadow. If you're coming here from Sonic Adventure 1, then you know what you are getting into. Better yet, I believe this game cranks up the spectacle with the set pieces. Playing through these levels reinforced what I said in my Sonic Adventure 1 video. Sonic's gameplay cannot be just about speed, because even with all the flashy stuff happening, you still need to slow down to take a good look at your environment. Either do a little obstacle course, fight some enemies, or look for an upgrade to let you progress. And you need to pay full attention or you will fall to your death. And thanks to the ranking system, they even incentivize you to play the levels as flashy as possible, doing acrobatics, grinding on rails, destroying multiple enemies, so on and so forth, simply making a show of it. Then there is the mecha levels. For the longest time I wondered why this particular entry puts Tails under Tornado, instead of letting him have the traditional obstacle course. Coming from the first game, I finally understand why. They are a response to players who loved Gamma's chapter. All of his mechanics are there. You are encouraged to lock on as many enemies as possible, while also doing a lot more platforming, and I'm sad to say it doesn't feel as good. Gamma, despite being a robot, had a very fast-paced, very frantic gameplay. You had to be constantly doing combos by locking on all the enemies you could to extend your time, and the level design lent itself to that. In this game, however, since you're no longer running against the clock, and they added more weight to the mecha, they feel a lot more clunky to control. Not to mention, locking onto enemies is not as frantic as before. Unlike the Gamma chapter, however, things are significantly slowed down, which is not itself a bad thing. I made it a point that learning to do the platforming fast is almost as important as the Sonic speed sections, but I did find my early mecha gameplay a bit rough, to the point I got 2 game overs at the very start. But I am willing to chalk that up to me going in blind, not having learned the gameplay system at full, and of course learning to move the camera more often since some upgrades are hidden out of the way. That is also the chance I struggle a bit at first because Tails for some reason has a lot more bottomless splits compared to Eggman. Because in the later Tails levels, and then in all of the Eggman levels, I was finally feeling the magic. I was having more fun with the platforming. The combat got a bit more okay-ish, so kudos for that. Now, for years, I heard from nearly every longtime Sonic fan that the treasure hunts were the worst part of this game. I found the Knuckles chapter in the first game underwhelming because of how easy it was to find the fragments with little less to do. And coming into this game, I was bracing myself for something similar, if not worse. And it's gonna sound like a hot take, but I actually like these levels. You gotta find 3 treasures, usually Master Emerald fragments, and that will grant you the instant win. The catch is their locations are randomized. You can get lucky and have all of them next to each other, or you can have them spread across each layer of the map. Early on, this doesn't feel too bad. This time around, there is a lot of hint screens to let you know where to look. But I noticed in both stories, the further you progress through them, the more intricate and layered they become. The only moments where I truly felt frustrated was towards the end game, with the Knuckles levels, and then one rush level having a 5-minute time limit. Those frustrations eventually got mitigated once I learned the layout of each map, and also got the hang of the main hiding places for the objective, so in the end I had a lot more fun. I'm coming to realize the reason I am not as frustrated with these older games as most people do is because they do fit into a very old gaming philosophy that has made this hobby so much fun. Games are made to be replayed. These levels are meant to be replayed. You won't be getting all the fun you saw out of them until you replay them a bunch of times. That's not to say the frustration towards some of the jank is not valid. Anyone looking to achieve A rank on all 5 mission modes is gonna face a lot of friction, and some of it is going to make things a little more complicated. Not that I will personally mind it, nor do I have plans to 100% to complete this game, at least not for now. With that being said, due to the game's age, it sadly does have a few problems. Not big enough to ruin it for me, but prominent enough that I have to mention them. I value signposting a lot. Being able to deduce where to go or what to do by simply looking around without relying on hovering markers is very satisfying. Sadly, I feel this game took a few hits on signposting. I understand wanting to have upgrades hidden in the levels, secrets are always fun, but to have some of these slightly hidden and then leaving the player to die because they didn't realize the upgrade was right next to them, that was not okay, even if some of it was a skill issue on my part. Part of this problem also comes from the camera. I get it, it's an old game, early 3D games always suffer from janky cameras, but this game in particular commits the cardinal sin of randomly deciding when you are and are not allowed to move the camera. It makes sense on paper, because you need to be able to see where you are going ahead, but when the upgrades and some key gameplay moments need you to backtrack a bit, I think I'd rather be able to walk backwards without having to wrestle with the camera the second I start to move. And on the technical issue side, I usually don't talk about this, but the sound mixing in this game is a mess during cutscenes. I already heard about the lines getting cut off, but what really caught my attention was how loud the music is, to the point it starts to seriously drown out dialogue. I did not have this problem in the first game, and seeing it in this one, and knowing it's been a consistent problem across all versions, it felt weird.
Wow, Tails! You did it! But what are you doing here on this island?
I'm the one who should be asking that question. Don't you know it's dangerous here? The Chaos Emeralds are like magnets. They have the power to attract each other. I can use that to find where Eggman is.
Move aside, Knuckles!
I managed to find the transcripts between Eggman and the President in the government computer. I'm following the President's limo right now.
But not as weird as one design decision that makes one specific gameplay segment needlessly harder. Okay, so, Despite water being a regular part of most Sonic levels, this game only has a grand total of 2 levels where you have to navigate underwater, and they are both Knuckles levels. So far so good. See, the problem is with the second water level, and it's part of the story for the true ending, you have to navigate an entire underwater area in order to progress to the next part. While there are air bubbles for you to regain oxygen and keep navigating through, this is by far the only legitimate difficulty spike in the entire game. But there are ways to make this a lot easier. Knuckles has an upgrade that allows you to breathe underwater, so no need to worry about oxygen so much. It's too bad said upgrade was decided to be made into a secret you have to go out of your way to find, instead of being one of the 3 main upgrades you can naturally come across by simply playing.
And I don't know what you do, Karen.
Good thing, you can revisit previous levels anytime you want, so if you missed anything, you can go back and grab it. Better yet, it's a one-time only deal, so you don't have to worry about grabbing them again on replays. Still, I would have preferred it if a game changer item like that wasn't hidden away, and I say this as someone who really enjoys replaying games to check for secrets. But even with those flaws, and despite what I'm about to say, I grew to really love this game. Remember when I said Sonic fans today insist the adventure games should be a template and how these characters should be written? It amuses me because now that I have experienced both games and read the comics and watched a number of TV shows, I can tell you with confidence, the stories of the Sonic Adventure games are the silliest, campiest Saturday morning cartoon stories I have seen, and I love them. The biggest camp comes from both the delivery of the voice actors and how short the cutscenes are. Let me remind you, this is an early 3D game. While cutscenes were becoming a lot more common in 2001, for games like this, they are always just a quick way to move the plot forward so you can get to the next gameplay segment ASAP. I'm not gonna deny the plot is really good. It's got tragedy, character growth, plot twists, a whole ride of emotions. So fun and memorable that it got adapted twice. First for the Sonic X anime, and then for the third Sonic movie. And then I watched the cutscenes for this game and they are so goofy that several times I got a good laugh out of it.
What's Amy doing here? Doesn't matter. I have to help Amy because she's in danger.
I mean, characters move from place to place super fast. They somehow know where everything important to the plot is, even after they just barely learn their existence. And even the most emotional moments are amusingly undermined by hectic, fast-paced music. It's such an honest effort at telling a more cohesive, more intense story that when it starts stumbling all the way through, I couldn't help but smile. It fails in all the right places where I never had a dull moment. I love this story and I really love this game. But I have to be honest, they don't make for enough material to write a long running story. That's why the anime and the movie did a fantastic job in expanding on them. I know it would be redundant to recommend this game given its history because it's Sonic. It's one of the more iconic entries in the franchise. Much like with the first adventure game, it has aged. Some of the level design might feel outdated because it is, but it doesn't make it any less fun. But if you do end up playing it, I recommend to go in with an open mind, or as usual installing a bunch of mods. The level design, especially with the speed stages, might feel a bit too linear and relying too much on spectacle, but that's more or less the point. It makes them easier to replay so you can learn where everything is and how to deal with the obstacles. There's a good reason this franchise has a timer and is very speedrunner friendly, and I don't need to repeat how important it is for me to replay my games. I really think this is one of those games that could greatly benefit from a remake or a remaster. Something that can make the controls a bit less janky and reworking the sound mixing will be a much needed shot in the arm. I would usually say I expect the sequel to improve upon this game, but I already know what is coming. There are 4 main games in the 3D era, and we are already halfway through, so if you know your Sonic history, you know we are going to be in for a very bad time very soon.